Dan getting 1,000 members of his audience to go out and measure Earth flat with elevation angle measurements. This isn't you debunking me, lads. It's you apologising for how globe-shaped it isn't when you measure Earth flat. Locally! Obviously, we've got negligible curvature when we measure Earth flat. And that's raw data, it is. Then that's what is being shown to us as being assessed when people's deaths are investigated. And I won't have a single one of you globe-believing pour scorn on the death investigations that the NTSB do when they show us Earth being measured flat.
So they can then project the ball within it,
exactly,
off of the same flat plane. The whole thing is a complete sham.
Yeah, so at the moment what's going on is I'm pointing out that Earth is measured flat, and Brian's pointing out that if you want to convert the model and assume that what you're measuring is from the surface, then you've got a single tangential point that doesn't form angles, and then you measure this area locally flat. I'll just say that again. You measure it, that's Earth, flat. You, ball believers, you measure Earth flat. There is no getting away from this. Ever. Now, if you want to deny how your Earth functions, you can deny the tangent plane that will later be converted to the equatorial plane inside the ball. That's where we've got these diagrams from. They're yours. Think it's mine? Think I made this? No, it's how a ball functions when you measure Earth flat. So what are you going to do when I point this out and you understand at any level how you functionally measure Earth, like Dan's figured out? He's got to apologise for how he's going to measure Earth flat locally for 50k. Now, is he going to deny that flat Earth measurement? Of course not. He's measured it 1,000 times with his audience participating for an elevation angle off Earth's surface. So he's measuring Earth flat, and he damn well knows it. So he's never going to contest what I say. All he can do is apologise for how he will measure Earth flat. But that doesn't mean it's flat. Why is Nathan some kind of dum-dum? Just because Nathan says it is what we measure. Yeah, what you measure is Earth flat, and I'm saying it is what you measure. Dan's saying we measure Earth flat, but that means it's a really big ball. Yeah, that's where we're at. You measure Earth flat, I measure Earth flat. We have always measured Earth flat. That's how it gets measured. Always, without exception. Now, when Dan looks into Nathan's claim that Earth gets measured flat, he'll validate it 1,000 times. He won't say I'm wrong. He'll go and get his audience to measure elevation angles to the sun 1,000 times. When Dave McKeegan says Nathan's a numpty, he says we measure Earth flat, he'll go and he'll measure Earth flat with elevation angle measurements to the sun in Antarctica. These are facts. Now, if you don't understand this because you're thick, that's my audience, probably the globe-believing side, then that's fine. Go and ask Dan, because he understands how flat Earth must be measured with basic trig, and understands how he's got to apologise for how it's acceptable to measure Earth flat with normal trig, because he does measure Earth flat. Always, without exception. Prove me wrong, because so far we've got Dave in Antarctica measuring Earth flat with elevation angles for a 24-hour period, and we've got Dan getting 1,000 members of his audience to go out and measure Earth flat with elevation angle measurements.
Surveys. Yes, local land surveys use flat approximation for convenience.
This isn't you debunking me, lads. It's you apologising for how globe-shaped it isn't when you measure Earth flat. Locally! Obviously, we've got negligible curvature when we measure Earth flat. Earth's flat, we checked.
On a local scale where curvature is negligible.
Okay, so if I summarise your position. You don't measure any curvature locally because it's negligible. Therefore, because of the lack of curve that you're measuring, that means you're not measuring any. It's okay, says Simon Dan, to measure Earth flat. Why would we measure it curving? Obviously, we can convert these flat Earth measurements to be inside a sphere after we measure this flat Earth. But it's a tangential plane to a ball that we've assumed in this model when we measure Earth flat. So nobody's going to be disagreeing with me. Nobody's going to be providing National Transportation Safety Board information that deviates from the flat plane we measure with raw data. Those are the measurements of Earth. Now, does that sound alien to anybody when they hear a flight controller telling a plane to go to a flight level?
Bear 0 Papa Echo, climb and maintain 12000.
Climb and maintain 12000.
Flight levels parallel with sea level. Now, Earth was always being measured flat by everyone.
Now, let's look into the cruising altitude assigned to the aircraft taking the actual flight through the Flight Radar 24. To check cruising altitude, you need to find the aircraft in the cruising stage without climbing or descending. It is flying at an even altitude of flight level 220, cruising at an odd altitude of flight level 190. Between flight level 290 to flight level 410, the usable altitude of flight level 290 and above. The accuracy of the aircraft altimeter is a compulsory element. Our VSM is possible only through specific navigation equipment and received approval from authorities.
There wasn't ever an exception, and you don't need to be a rocket surgeon to wrap your head around just how flat Earth is being dealt with. Just go and listen to anything that's got any life or death scenarios attached to it, and you'll understand immediately why Simon Dan's apologising for the flat Earth measurements locally that you're measuring Earth with and surveying Earth with. Now, Dan can call it flat Earth approximation when they survey Earth. It's not. They're measuring Earth flat. They're surveying it. Now, he can say it's for convenience that you measure Earth flat. And it's just because we have negligible curvature when you measure Earth flat. But you do measure Earth flat. There's no exceptions to these facts, ever. And moving forward, we're going to start putting people on blast if they start suggesting that any life or death aircraft raw measurements from black boxes. And I won't have a single one of you globe-believing pour scorn on the death investigations that the NTSB do when they show us Earth being measured flat. Now, if they're correcting something, better damn well show us.
Mercury erected gyros that use a small container of mercury. When the gyros tilt off a vertical, gravity will still cause the mercury to sit level to the aircraft's local horizontal. But if the container isn't level, then the mercury will eventually touch one of several switches inside the container.
Show us this in NTSB pitch data. Should be pretty easy. Spoiler alert, it isn't in there. Now, if Dave's suggesting that it is in there, then he's suggesting that NTSB are meddling with the raw data of the flat Earth that's being measured for the parallel flight with respect to sea level, measured for the chord line of the aircraft's wings to be above the horizontal plane of reference that is measured by the NTSB when they investigate people's deaths.